look at the evolving landscape of global energy and its profound implications for Nigeria's economy. As an energy expert, Olabude Somi, you're welcome to Business Express.
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay, beautiful. Let's begin the conversation with the current global energy prices and availability. How do you foresee the Iran threat influencing crude oil, or rather a retaliation influencing crude oil prices and global supply chains in the short to medium term?
Okay, there's something that is called the geopolitics of oil and gas, which means that there are certain political activities that affect oil and gas when it comes to energy economics. And Iran will not be the first, nor will it be the last. You will recall, if you look at the tendency and the history since the 70s, there are usually a number of places where there are tensions that affect oil and gas, particularly among the major producing nations. A couple of years ago, it was Venezuela, when there was sanctions by the US that tilted the price. Before then, there was Libya, when the death of Gaddafi and the invasion and the civil war that broke out there affected oil prices. There was a time it was the Iran-Iraq war that tilted oil prices. So these things are not new. They have happened, they will continue to happen, and they have happened over the decades. What my belief is that the politics in and of itself into what caused it, whether it is Israel, whether it is US, whether it is Iran, should not really be our business. Our business is to manage and get informed about the possible implications of the pricing of the oil and gas in terms of our own ability to make money and the implications on our economy and our budget.
Okay, let's talk about our ability to make money. What are the potential ripple effects on the Nigerian economy?
There's no effect apart from the fact that it's a factor of demand and supply. So as long as the issues lead to increase in prices, we make more money. If for any reason there's a plateau in terms of prices, there's a plateau. So it's, that's the most important thing, and that's the real issue here.
So it doesn't actually matter if they go into war and we're making money. Is that what you're saying?
There have always been wars. Sorry. I think we should not get this thing confused.
I understand.
There is war in northern Nigeria now. I mean, have people stopped going to work because there is war there? Some people died in Benue. I mean, has that affected normal day-to-day lives? So we need to keep a balance.
So
what
if
I'm
these
just saying
things
is that we
happen,
should focus.
if these things actually, I mean, if what we are seeing is actually turned into a full-fledged war, are we likely to experience some windfall? Because the other time that oil prices were sold high, we didn't actually get to enjoy any windfall. Are we going to see a different scenario this time around now that our crude oil production has increased?
I don't know what you mean by windfall. What I do know is that if there is an increase in price and the price goes beyond the budget planning, what that means is that there will be a surplus. What happens to that surplus is an issue between the CBN and the Ministry of Budget Planning and the Ministry of Finance. It's not an energy issue. It's just purely how they manage the economy and the outside my own circle of influence.
Okay, given that the Bonny Light crude is currently selling above the Nigeria's 2025 budget benchmark of, more than $70 per barrel, how can Nigeria best leverage this favorable pricing while mitigating potential volatility?
Again, those things fall under judgment call. So it's basically, you can look at it this way. A family, the husband and wife, they earn certain amount of money. Say, for example, they earn 700,000 naira. Then all of a sudden, maybe the husband gets a promotion and the increase goes to 900,000 naira. How are they going to manage it? It's a judgment call. They can decide to save it. They can decide to put it in the house that they're building. They can decide. So those are management issues. They are not really energy issues.
You are telling us to be cautiously optimistic. Is that?
No, I am saying that how we manage the income is not an energy issue. It is an economic issue. And that is in the responsibility.
But are we seeing the possibility of getting more income?
Getting what?
More income.
Yes, of course. Once there's an increase, there's more income. That doesn't require intelligence. I mean, if the price is $70 per barrel and we are selling at $74 per barrel, that means for every barrel there's an extra $4.
Okay.
It's as simple as that.
So that's good for Nigeria.
Definitely.
Because I'm expecting you to tell me that's good for Nigeria, is it? Isn't it?
No, but there are some things that are just common sense. Yeah, and whether it's good for Nigeria, it is not my place to make judgment for people. My job as an analyst is to let people see the situations and then they can decide for themselves what is right or wrong. So what I'm saying is that there's an extra income. If it is good for Nigeria, that's a common sense for people to decide.
Okay, now the Dangote Refinery is recent initiative to somehow directly distribute petroleum products with a fleet of CNG-powered trucks offering free logistics is a significant development. What are your perspective on the potential impact of this new model of Nigeria's downstream petroleum sector on fuel prices for consumers and overall economic efficiency?
Okay, I think this is a dicey one because of the implications that are significantly outside of energy per se. The issue is that, it's a brilliant economic move in terms of a business move, and he has the funding, the capital to ensure that. But the other side of it is that it drives him or it moves him into a monopoly. The first monopoly recognized in the world was Standard Oil, which became an issue with the US government. In 1911, the case went as far as the Supreme Court of the US, where a judgment was passed that Standard Oil must be broken down into a number of companies because its size does not allow for competition. Now, interestingly, those companies that they broke down to are still alive today. You're talking about ExxonMobil, you're talking about Chevron, you're talking about the US branch of Shell. So you can imagine all those companies being one company. What the US and the Western nations see in terms of all those things is that a company that big does not help ultimately to build society. Now, in Nigeria, there is a law under the FCCPC, the competition price law. That law, in essence, says that anybody with greater than 40% of market share is dominant, and in other words, monopolistic. With the move, even though it's brilliant, what it does is that it brings him into a monopoly. And somebody will say, why does it really matter and all that? The implication is this. If somebody has a monopolistic hold, and for any reason they upset him, I'm not saying that will happen, he can as well close his business, switch off his phone and go to the Bahamas. It's his private business anyway. What's going to happen to the nation? What about, will planes be able to fly with? So there are certain things that people look into in terms of the development of a nation. That's where those things are. But those are between them, the regulator, NMDPRA and UPRC, the government, the foreign arm, the FCC people to decide. This is a new situation that we find in Nigeria, but it is a situation that has happened in other parts of the world. So there has to be a balance so that the person who has also invested, which is in this case Dangote, does not feel shortchanged, does not feel bad. So there's a balance that needs to be looked into in all of this. So it's just for us to look at this.
Who looks into the balance?
That's why there's a regulator.
Yeah. This has always been a recurring thing. Whenever a particular player in the field comes up with a particular model that will favor his business, that will somehow reduce the cost of goods or supply of a particular product for people, it becomes an issue. There's always a concern of monopoly and things like that. But wouldn't this be, I thought this is a competitive space. Other competitors should also come up with a model that will somehow compete with the model that Dangote has.
Which is true. It's one way to look at it. But you must understand that there is a future.
Because there must be a win-win situation.
No, hold on.
For both suppliers of this product and the consumers.
Hold on. There must be laws. First of all, for him to effectively operate that, they have to repeal the law that establishes FCCPC. That law must be abolished because you can't have a business that is operating against the law. So What we are saying is that all those institutions, whether it is FCCPC and all that, there is a reason why they exist. It is incumbent upon us to first of all understand those reasons and then balance it. I have not said in any way that Dangote should not be encouraged, nor have I implied that his business needs to be cut short. What we are saying is that there is a long-term future that needs to be looked into in terms of a nation that is growing up. And that long-term future, at the fundamental of it, is energy security. And those are the potentials that this thing threatens. And that is a regulatory responsibility. So what we are saying is that while we are celebrating it, while some businesses are likely to die and will die as a result of it, it is important that there must be a balance. Because at the end of the day, my 1,000 naira should not be threatened simply because there's a guy that has a few billions. It must be live and let's live.
Okay. Thank you very much, Olabode Somi.